Welcome to Taking Stock. I grew up in North Chingford, which means that Epping Forest was pretty much my backyard. And I've lost count of the days I must have spent up there with my older siblings and my school friends, getting up to all sorts of adventures. We became very, very familiar with it. We knew exactly where we were in it. So much so that when my best friend Paul and I disappeared, absconded from our back gardens and met in the alleyway between before our mothers realised we were gone, that's where they looked for us. And when I say they, I don't just mean my parents. I don't know what my parents and Paul's parents did, but certainly we were finally discovered, he and I, at High Beach in Epping Forest by a policeman in a big black police car with a bell on the front. I'm old enough to remember police cars with bells. And we were very pleased indeed when the police officer decided it'd be a really good idea to put the bell on as he drove us home. I'll draw a veil over the reactions of our parents to us having absconded and then being brought home by the police. But it kind of shows you, I suppose, that it'd be the first place we would go, even at the age of 4. And as we grew up there, it was where we did much of our living, much of our adventuring, much of our courting even. I think the first date that my now wife, then girlfriend, went on was in fact to walk her dog up through and in Epping Forest. To me, it was the natural place. But despite that intimate experience, I can't say that my knowledge of woodland life was equal or equally as intimate. I have sat and watched the deer in Epping Forest, for example, sat for hours at a spot where I thought they would be, and sure enough they turned up. I've sat in Epping Forest and painted, taken an easel and some watercolours up to Epping Forest and painted the trees, or a tree, while I was there. I've cooked in forest glades with my brother and sister and friends in the midst of winter. Took a frying pan, built a fire, cleared the snow and built a fire and cooked ourselves bacon sandwiches. But I can't say that I have an intimate knowledge of the woodland. But it's intimately part of me. And last week, we went for a walk in the woods. Not Epping Forest, actually, but the woods near where we live, Friday Woods in Colchester, which is a military training area. Which is a bit of a difference, to be honest with you. I think the military training area might even be bigger than Epping Forest. I've never really measured either of them. But in Epping Forest, all we had to avoid was the wild cows and the cowpats. In Friday Woods, we do well to avoid unexploded army ordnance. But that aside, they're very similar places. They're very, very, very similar, deciduous woodlands. Both have been left almost untouched for generation after generation. And we're well blessed with having Friday Wood on, again, our doorstep here in Colchester. But it was only last week, after 12 weeks, that we were able to go for a walk in the woods. When I was seriously ill, just over a year ago now, 18 months or so ago, I measured the state of my health by a particular walk through Friday Woods. We always parked at the same place and we always walked the same route, which we knew and the dogs knew as they came with us. As I grew sicker under chemotherapy, there was one particular part of the walk which I used to judge my level of fitness or otherwise. As I completed chemotherapy and came out of successful treatment for my lymphoma, that same walk became not just a measure of how sick I'd been, but a measure of how well I was becoming. And then to be told we need to lock up, self-isolate for 12 weeks by the government while they try and deal with the coronavirus. Yeah, right. Well, it was a real loss for one who grew up with a forest and was blessed with a forest in the doorstep in his last appointment. It's a real loss not to be able to make that walk or make that measure. So when last Monday, a week ago yesterday, we finished our 12 weeks of total self-isolation and decided we could risk going out early mornings, hopefully before anyone's out and about, to have a walk through Friday Wood, I can't tell you what a blessing it was and what a blessing it's been each day since. Something which I took for granted for the whole of my childhood and beyond, a walk in the woods, became something really very precious indeed. And as we walked through the woods for the first time in weeks, we became aware of every physical experience of that walk. Strangely, the first thing I noticed was how difficult it was to walk at all. Because for the first time in 12 weeks, I wasn't walking on a relatively smooth surface. I was walking on an uneven surface. It felt like you feel if you've been on a boat a long time and then step off it. It was odd. But it was the other intimate experiences, the sights, the sounds and the smells of a wood in summer, the honeysuckle, the briar roses, the campion, the bees and the birds, blackcaps, warblers, wrens, the wrens can sing, pheasants, woodpecker, and the breeze, such as it was, and the touch of the sun on our faces. All of these things we had so often taken for granted. And having had them taken away, what a blessing it was to get them back. The simple things, the things we've taken for granted. I spoke last time about the new opportunities that might arise for the church because of the accelerating nature of the COVID virus in terms of forcing the church to change. Well, it's not just the church that has to change, it's also us. We, as individuals, have to rediscover the beauty of the intimate and the value of the disregarded, the things that we've taken for granted, the relationships that we've sometimes laid aside or presumed would go on forever and we've found have been closed off by this virus, the relationships which have actually grown stronger because of the adversity, the smell of honeysuckle in the woods, the sound of blackcaps singing one to another from one tree to another, the touch of the breeze. Rupert Brooke wrote a poem about such things where he describes all the things that he missed from England, all the things he took for granted. I hope that in future walks through the wood, as it were, we will remember how blessed we have been in the past and how blessed we have been given to have been given a future or a possible future. That we will remember all those who have died because of the mishandling of this COVID virus crisis, all those families who've been bereaved because of the incompetence of people of high rank in their own eyes, of high responsibility. And I hope we will remember the intimate things, those that we've lost, those that we've regained, and that we'll never let them go again, or take them for granted. That we'll remember that each moment is precious, each touch of the breeze, each brush of the sunshine, each sound of the blackcap, precious to us in our intimate moments, in our walks through the wood. Stay safe, people.